Hello everyone, welcome to the Introduction to WSO2 Microservices Framework for Java webinar. As some of you already know, this is the fourth and last session of this series. So my name is Sagara. I'm a software architect at WSO2. So in this particular session, I'm going to discuss about the internals about microservices framework and also some hands-on experience. So one notice before we begin. So if you have any question, feel free to send to the chat window so that I can answer at the end of the session. In also through this email address, also to my Twitter handle, you can send me offline question so that I can answer later. So let's start with the. So as I mentioned, this is the last session of this series. So we already had 3 sessions under this microservices webinar series. The first one we discussed about the architectural overview of the microservices. Then we discussed inner and outer architectures. So I hope you already attended that session. Otherwise, I'm highly recommend you to go to the offline recordings of these sessions to understand the architectural aspect of microservices. Okay, so let me start with a very brief introduction. So basically, what is microservice architecture? It's basically an architectural style that you can use to develop software system so that you develop software solution as a bunch of independently deployable services. That is a very restricted or very limited definition for microservices architecture. And also, if we look at the development of microservices, so the inner architecture, so that involves several concepts such as the microservice should be single scope, microservice should be independently deployable, it should be independently disposable, like that. So there are a bunch of characteristics. So that's not the focus of this particular session. So this is mainly about WSO2 MSF4J framework. So the first question, what is MSF4J framework? It's a lightweight and high performance framework for building microservices in Java. So the underlying two words here is lightweight and high performance. So as you already know, there are a bunch of microservices frameworks available in the market. Some of them are free and open source, and some of them are paid. But so the highlighted characteristics of WSO2 microservices framework is it's lightweight and high performance. That is the main two objective we are trying to achieve with this framework. So this is the broad vision of this framework. As I mentioned, the first one is it should be lightweight and fast runtime. Second one is so it should be based on Java annotations and somewhat familiar for our end users. Third one is we didn't want to use or we didn't want to introduce something entirely new, some kind of proprietary API. Instead, what we tried is use the well-known specification, like a subset of JAX and also subset of JSR, the common annotation for Java, etc. And also another vision is provide simple way to develop and deploy microservices. So that means we are not just trying to provide the framework. Instead, we are trying to provide the development tools, and also we take care about the deployment, that is the outer architecture concepts, like how to monitor, how to secure, how to scale your deployment, etc. So this is also included into this the visions of this framework. And also, so if you are attend to last few sessions, you identify with microservices architecture there are a bunch of challenges. So two of them are end-to-end monitoring. Other one is security. So if you look at monolithic application, also these are some of the challenges. But with the microservices, this is more challenging aspect. So the one important vision is to provide built-in matrix and analytic API, and also to provide out-of-the-box integration with WSO2 data analytics server. And when it comes to security, again, our vision is to provide out-of-the-box security features and also integrate with WSO2 identity server. So that is about the vision. So then, I will go to some of the performance numbers. So this is again, so we have done some performance comparison with some other well-known set of microservices frameworks. So this first one is based on how output is vary with the concurrency. So at the moment, we try to achieve very high level of throughput with the concurrency. So we have compared with the Drop Wizard, Spring Boot, etc. And this is the memory consumption, how memory consumption is vary with the concurrency. So again, we compare with the same set of framework like Spring Boot and Drop Wizard. And also, so this, if you go to our GitHub, the repository, we have open source all these comparison samples and comparison tests. So basically, you can run all these samples and comparison tests, and you can validate whether these numbers or whether these numbers are correct or wrong. So basically, you don't need to just believe what I am telling. So you can everything is open source, so you can try out and you can make your own judgment about the memory consumption and performance. So when it comes to MSF4J implementation, so we basically based on NETI at the moment we support for HTTP transport, that is based on NETI 4, and also we support for streaming and high performance, low memory foot, and this, most of the cases the services start with 300 milliseconds. So these are some implementation level details. So this is where you can download the framework, and also you can refer our getting started guide, and also there are a bunch of samples that you can use. So these are the core features. So as I mentioned also, so we are trying to provide quick and simple development model, and also we are trying to provide the interceptor API. Basically, some cases you want to intercept messages, for example, for login, for to validate some stuff, to do security validation. So in such a case, the MSF4J comes with an interceptor API, and also we have inbuilt JWT based security mechanism. For example, in monolithic application, so when you have a several layers, for example, assume in your monolithic web application you have presentation layer, then you have your business logic, then data access layer, etc. So in such a cases, when you move in one layer to other layer, so all this call happen within the same JVM. So you don't need, so basically Java level security principles, you can move from one level to another level. But with the microservices, most of the cases, to do a one business level transaction, you have to incorporate or you have to contact the several services. So how to propagate security context? For example, through an API gateway or at the first web application level, you can authenticate whoever they call these services. Then how you pass this information? So that for that we have inbuilt support for tokens, basically JWT token. So one service to another service, we pass this security context as a JWT token. So another one is out of the box matrix. So basically you can capture matrix and publish into console, or you can publish into JMX, or you can, to get a better dashboard support, you can publish those matrix data into WSO2 dash. Again, Dev Studio support, that is a development tool, and also we have provided the complete end-to-end sample. So we have a bunch of simple samples that I'm going to demonstrate later. In the meantime, we have one sample called a PETSO. That's a solution. Basically, it consists with 2 web application and 3 microservices, and also it uses radius for caching, and it uses JWT and OAuth for security purposes, and also complete sample run on Kubernetes. That is a complete, end-to-end complete microservice architecture-based solution. That's also another feature available with the WSO2 offering. And also we have that is what I mentioned as Kubernetes and Docker-based reference architecture and reference application. So these are some of the core features. So these are what I mentioned also. Security. When it comes to security, you can use for the use authentication. You can use either basic code or after that, from that point to onwards, for other services you can use JWT token to propagate security context. So we already have JWT security interceptor. So once you enable the security interceptor, the other services can get the authentication information, like who is the user, what are the user roles, etc. So when it comes to analytics, so there are a bunch of annotations. So once you annotate your resources with this annotation, the framework will automatically capture those numbers and use for analytic purposes. So this is the example, like timed, metered, and counted. So you just have to annotate with your resources. So this is the sample screen. So once you publish this analytic into WSO dash, this is the sample view. So this is a tooling aspect. So basically, the Swagger becoming the de facto standard for RESTful services. So if we use the code, the contract first approach, that means if you develop your Swagger file first, so you can provide that Swagger file into Developer Studio, WSO Developer Studio. So Developer Studio can generate the skeleton for your microservice. So that's also a development level tool in support. So now I think that is a bit of introduction. So now I'm going to focus on some hands-on. So this is the sample repository. So all these samples are available in this repository. So either you can use Maven or you can use Gradle to try out this sample. So feel free to try out this sample and send you feedback to us. So the first one I'm going to start is the traditional Helloworld one. So we have an archetype. So I'm going to use this archetype to generate the Helloworld sample. So let me go through that. Okay, hope everyone can see my screen. Okay, so I already ran the sample. So this is basically the Maven archetype goal. So I'm going to run it. Okay, so I just created the Helloworld archetype, but so let me go through here. So okay, I guess there is a lag with the session, so I'm sorry about that. Okay, so here you can see the sample just generated. So this is the Helloworld. So I'm going to change the sample a little bit. So hello. So these are pretty much standard JAX annotation. Okay, so I have just developed my sample. So next thing is I'm going to use Maven. So I'm going to package using Maven. So I just use Maven package God. Okay, so once I use this Maven command, it will create the complete everything in a single jar file. So that I can run it like any other Java standalone Java application. So I use Java jar, then hello world. Okay, so as you can see, it's already started. Actually, it started in 202 milliseconds. So now let me try out this sample just using curl. Okay, curl. Sorry about. Okay, so here we go. So you get the hello target command. So if I use, so you can see the HTTP status is 200, and also it says the hello target. So that is our hello world sample. So this is my sample. So if I use the curl command, okay, so as you can see, this is the sample I use, just hello world, and this is the application class. So basically, this is how I run the main class. So I think it's better to show it in here. So basically, idea. Let me go back to the idea. So basically, within the main method, so I call the microservices runner, and I deploy my hello world. That is my the resource. I just create that resource and I start it. That is how I run the first sample. So just to save time, so next I move into So next I'm going to discuss about interceptors. So as I mentioned, basically we have a interface called interceptor. So once we implement this interceptor, as you can see in the sample, so there are two methods. So the first one is this interceptor define two methods. That first one is pre-call and post-call. And within this call, you can access the HTTP request and also the HTTP response. So these are basically NETI based HTTP request and NETI based HTTP response. And also the service information. You can get the service information through the this service method. Through that, you can intercept and you can do whatever the interception task through this the interceptor implementation, like a login if you want to log the messages, or if you want to validate security, or if you want to validate the existence of any kind of particular HTTP header. That kind of thing you can perform through this implementation. So once you write this implementation, so in your main method, what you can do is you can call a method called add interceptor. So this is how you can engage, or how you can enable your interceptors into to the current service. So let me show the sample. So just for the simplicity, I already created this sample. So this is the same Helloworld sample. So as you can see here, the same Helloworld resource I have here. Then this is my application. So this is identical except this line. So in this line, I am adding a username password security interceptor. So let me go to that. So basically this is there's abstract class. That is how basically that is how I implemented. So but this is the actual class, the abstract basic interceptor. So you can see this is the pre-call method and this is the post-call method. So actually in this sample, what I'm going to demonstrate is the basic code, how to do the basic code, and also the interceptor, how to use interceptor. So basically this is the pre-calls. Here I have accessed the header and I look for particular the authorization header, and if there is authorization header, I extract the username and password for the basic code, then I call the authenticate method. So authenticate is defined in my derived class. Basically in this sample, I'm just check whether username and password are equal. But in real situation, what you could do is, so if you have a local way to authenticate, so you can plug that logic to here. Or if you have authentication server, what you could do is you can do a remote call from this point and do the authentication. So that is what you can do in real world. So let me run this sample. Let me show you one other time. So this is my the interceptor implementation, and this is my resource, same resource as earlier, and this is how I add the interceptor into the main method. So now let me stop this service for a second and let me move into the security sample. So again, I have to build this sample. Okay, so build is successful. So now let me try this sample. Okay, started. So this is same sample. So let me try with the same previous call, because I'm going to access the identical resource. So here you can see. So I'm not providing any username or password, any security credentials. So it says unauthorized. So now let me try with my username and password. So as you remember, my authentication logic is I only check whether the username and password are equal or not. So let me use my name. Sorry. Okay. So here we go. So here I get HTTP 200 response, and here my response. Hello, sorry. So third one. The third one is so this is the second sample. So I demonstrated how to achieve basic security and also how to achieve how to write an interceptor. So in OAuth case, so we already have an interceptor for OAuth, so you just have to enable it, but you need some additional thing. Right now you need WSO2 identity server to validate the tokens and get the GWT token back. And also if you have a third-party identity providers, you have to write your custom interceptor, like my basic code interceptor. So now let me move into discuss about matrix. Again, I'm going to use the same hello world sample, and I'm going to annotate with this matrix annotations. So here now you can see the sample. So this I just added the metered method. So that is what I have to annotate in the resource method. Then in the application class, the main method, under the main method, again I have to add a inbuilt interceptor called matrix interceptor. It is already available out of the box, so you have to add that interceptor. So if you want to monitor the WSO2 Microservices services with any third-party analytic platform, you have to write your own matrix interceptor. This is out of the box available for WSO2 dash, and also this can publish analytics or the monitoring statistics into console or JMX. So let me try that. So here is the same hello world resource. So as you can hear, this is my first hello method. So I have annotated this metered, and second one I annotated with time. So because in order to display this. Then in application, under the main method, I have added this the matrix interceptor, and also I configured matrix report. The matrices should go to console and also to JMX. So if you want to support WSO2 dash, so there is a dash option. But in this case, I haven't configured dash, so I just use console and JMX. Okay, so now let me try that sample as well. Okay, first let me build that sample. Okay, now let me try that sample using Java command. Okay, so this time with since I enabled the matrix, it took around 284 milliseconds. So let me try with few calls. I have two resources. configured the console reporter for 60 seconds. So that means I have to wait for 60 seconds. So in the meantime, we can try with JMS. Start JConsole. Okay. By the time, okay, here you can see the analytic reports, the basic statistic reports are reported into console. So basically these are some JVM level stats like heap size, cache size in JVM, and then you have the HTTP level. For example, this metered resource, the hello. So the count is 5, and these are the mean for 1 minute, 5 minutes, and 15 minutes. And also for this is the second one. Second resource count is 4, and these are the mean, standard deviation, and those statistics. So if I log into JConsole, so if I log into JConsole, I also can see the same matrices. So you can see the count is 5, 15 minutes rate, and so on. So if I go to second resource, so you can see the count is 4, and these are the statistics. So these are very basic statistics. So if you publish into WSO2 DAS, you can get very comprehensive reports. Okay, so far what you have seen is some very basic samples about the first one hello world, second one is about basic security, third one is about matrices. Now let me show you something more close to real world, that is how to access the data base. So in this case, some of the microservices framework try to provide their own way to access data sources and some of the other resources, and also some of the framework try to provide the wrappers. So one thing we are not doing is we don't try to provide a new wrappers. So when you provide the wrappers, means there is an overhead and also there is a learning curve. For example, if you are familiar with JPA, we just allow you to use the JPA APIs. If you are familiar with JMS, so we facilitate to use JMS directly APIs. So we are not try to provide helper class or kind of a wrappers. So this is a sample I'm going to demonstrate for next. So we have something called user resource. So then user resource called user DAO. Then this user DAO then connect to the JPA API, Java Persistent API. Then I use the Hibernate as a persistent. So then for the database, so in this sample I use, right now I'm going to use S2 database. In the meantime, I can use MySQL database as well. So let me go to the sample. So here this is my Helloworld JPA sample. So this is my user resource. So this is based on principles, the REST user principles. So here I have my user repository, user. So this is, then I have two resources, the add user and get users. So this is my syntax. Okay. So this is my user resource. So within the user resource, I have included the user repository. So if I go to user repository, so So this is based on JPA, Java Persistent API, and this is my user B. This is again a POJO simple Java B annotated with JPA annotations. So this is the stack repository. So this is how I use to create, remove, and find. So there is nothing really new. So if you are familiar with and JPA API, this is the identical code. So then, as you know, so here I have provided my persistent descriptor, the persistent.xml file. So there I have provided the S2 database settings and Hibernate related details. So here this is for S2. If you want to enable MySQL, you can just click this one. So this is pretty much about the sample. So let me run that sample. So this time let me try to use Gradle. Instead of Meme. So I have successfully built a sample using Gradle. So now let me run it again. Familiar syntax Java jar. Okay, so in this sample, as I mentioned, I used inbuilt S2 database. That's why it took around 600 milliseconds. So now I can test the sample again using curl. So users, so name, the first name should be Sagar, and then my real name, last name is the. Okay, so something went wrong. Let me. Okay, sorry about that. So I use HTTP GET. So I should do HTTP post. Here we go. So this time 202 accepted. That is, my call is correct. So I can try out. So this time I'm going to use HTTP GET with users. So this should return list of users. So as you can see, I have only one user, that is first name Sagar and last name is Gunatunga. So if I want to access the first user only, so let me add the ID to the GET call. So here I can get the ID. So this is how you can develop the JPA based microservice. Okay, coming back to the session. So this is pretty much I want to cover today. So you can contact us through our channels, and in very short time I will going to upload this presentation and also sample into GitHub. So feel free to ask any question you have through the chat window, or in the meantime you can contact through my email address or through my Twitter handle. So if you have any question, so this is the time for that. Okay, so we have few questions coming. The first one is, so let me read the question and then answer. So first one is, what is the main difference between SO and microservices architecture? So this is not related to the Microsoft framework today's session, but anyway I can answer it. So basically, so some people think the SO is dead and microservice is evolving. So that's not the right answer. And some people say the SOA is the the microservice is evolvement of SOA. That's pretty much correct. So if you develop the proper microservice, that's also become the correct SOA service. For example, there are a bunch of principles. So SOA, we have several principles like everything should be contracted, and you have to separate out contracts and the implementation. So basically you hide the implementation details from rest of the world through a contract, well-known contract, and you have to use loosely coupled. So one service should cater one business services. So the like that, there are a bunch of SOA principles that still valid for microservices. So then what is the difference? So in SOA world, there is no clear principle, so clear idea about the deployment, how you deploy this application. But microservices, some people call it as a microservices, is a post-DevOps technology. So the microservices is a combination of SOA principles plus DevOps disciplines. Basically, when you develop a microservice, it should be independently deployable and independently disposable. So this is we didn't have this principle with the SOA. So other than that, it's pretty much about the involvement of SOA principle. So in simple terms, I can say the microservices is kind of a merge of SOA principle plus DevOps practices plus some cultural changes. So moving to second one. Is there a support for exposing a Swagger definition from the microservices? So basically, if you so there are two ways to develop the services in microservices or any kind of a services. The first one is contract first, and second one is code first. So if you use the contract first, that means you first develop the Swagger definition. So we can you can use WSO Developer Studio to generate the code, skeleton code for the microservices through Swagger definition. The second one is if you develop a code, so whether we can generate the Swagger definition. At the moment, there are a bunch of the third-party libraries available. So once you incorporate those frameworks, you can generate the Swagger definition from your service. And also, this is so if there is enough interest, we can consider this into our product roadmap. Next one, do you have examples starting from Swagger definitions using Dev Studio? Yes, so we have a sample on our documentation. So after this session, I can send these URLs. So basically, I can email you, or I can append to this slide deck. Next question is microservices good choice for big retail client? So I would say the microservices depend on case by case. So microservice is not a kind of a silver bullet. It has its own drawbacks as well. For example, so the earlier monolithic application, so if you change a small portion of the application, you have to rebuild or you have to retest everything again, and you can't choose most preferable technology for part of the application. So whole monolithic application should develop based on single technological stack, and also you can't replace a part of the application. So these are some of the drawbacks. So microservices address or overcome these problems, but introduce some other drawbacks. For example, deployment complexity. So now you need some kind of a sophisticated environment like a Kubernetes or that kind of a scaling environment, and also you need analytics in order to identify bottlenecks and what's going on in your system, etc. And you need very high level of security mechanism, basically propagate security from one point to another point. So these are some business level thinking. You have to think, and based on that you have to draw the you have to decide whether the microservice is right choice for my organization or not. The next one is, are you planning to demonstrate Kubernetes Docker pet store sample? Not within this session, because it again take around 30 minutes or so on in order to properly demonstrate it. But we are planning to do a separate session about how to deployment can happen, or what is our recommended deployment patterns related to microservices. So we will notify when we are ready to do that session. In the meantime, if you go to our GitHub page, it has all the instructions, so you can try out yourself, and if you have any questions, so you can send us, or you can use Stack Overflow or whatever the community channels, so that we can help out. So next question is, when we say independent, does it mean we create service in same application or combining multiple application and one service? The first one is, clearly we are not combining any applications. So again, so when you say same applications, for example, assume you have a shopping cart. So in a shopping cart you have the catalog service, you have a user service, and you have some kind of a payment service. In earlier days, most applications we use some pattern like domain model pattern, and we develop the one web application. You can do the same thing using .NET as well, and if it is a Java, you develop as a one web application and deploying into an application server. So within this application, using Spring or Java EJB, you have these layers. But in microservices, this one application you have to decompose into several services. For example, your front-end web applications are separated, and you have separate service, the separate independent service for catalog. That's only cater about catalog. And you have separate service for your users, another service for payment. So and each and every service communicate through well-known standard protocols like HTTP and the JMS, AMQP, so on, and also use very known data patterns like XML, JSON, text, etc. Okay, I think that is pretty much about this session. And also I think since we have got a lot of interest on this microservice services, so we will plan to have some series little later with some topics like dedicated topic like especially considering security, matrices, and so on, with how microservices supported in WSO2 architecture. So if you have any further question, feel free to send me a mail or us to my Twitter, or send us to our public channels or community channels. Okay, thanks a lot for attending this webinar. I hope this is helpful for you. Thank you.